Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and I tell you, what an honor to have this special guest with us today. Now, his father has been on the Dove radio since 1983. That's how long we have carried Dr. Dobson's program on the Dove radio network and then Family Talk now. But I am delighted to have with us his son, Ryan Dobson, who's a best-selling author, a speaker. He co-hosts a show with his father, Family Talk. And we're here to talk to him about their new series, book and film series, Building a Family Legacy. And Ryan, I have to tell you, I'm holding in my hand, and I don't think you can see it. In fact, I know you can't. But I'm holding in my hand here a ping pong paddle. And on one side is your dad's signature, and on the other side is your signature.
That's the day I got engaged at Anaheim, NRB. Oh, what was it? 2000.
I don't know. I didn't put the date on. All I know, I had two swings at the ball with you, and you got me.
Uh-oh. That was a good time. We had a great trip that trip. It was Valentine's Day. It was 2005, and I gave my wife a surfboard for Valentine's Day, and then I had an engagement ring for her, and I got engaged that night. So, wow. Been 9 years. I'm still married.
Congratulations. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How are you doing, Perry?
Good. Good to see you. Thanks for what you guys do. You do a terrific job, and we're honored to carry your program all of these years. And wow, your new series is terrific. What made you and your dad sit down and go down this road?
It was actually me. About 5 years ago, I was in my parents' basement. I don't even know what I was doing there, and I found a shelf full of DVDs. And so I was looking through it, seeing if I had something I want to watch. And I found a copy of the original film series, and it wasn't a good copy. I mean, the original film series was filmed on video, transferred to film, then it was transferred back to VHS, and this was then transferred to DVD. But I thought it'd be funny to see my dad in the 70s, and it did not disappoint. I mean, he's got a huge tie and wide lapels, sideburns, big glasses. It's so awesome. Yeah. But you forget 5 minutes in. It's so captivating. And I remember thinking when I was done with the very first film that I was going to be a better dad and a better father. And so my wife and I watched the rest of the series. Our friends were watching it. We're giving it to my friends. And I called my dad. I'm like, this stuff is great. And he was like, yeah, I mean, you agree with 100 million people. Yeah. I'd never seen it before. I was 9 when it came out, and I started pushing him to let me re-release it. And he was like, Ryan, this is 30 years old. No one wants it. And I said, everybody needs this now. Every new parent, every new married couple needs this. So it's been a little over 5 years now. We remastered 3 of the originals from the 70s because you just can't change them. They're too good. My dad did 4 of them. I did 1. There's a book to go with every film, 8 books. 8 Bible study curriculums, and we're so excited. It launched last night on simulcast. People can watch it for free. Literally, the first film you can watch for free right now by going to buildingafamilylegacy.com. And then all 8 films are on video on demand, and they're going to be released real shortly.
All right, buildingafamilylegacy.com. That is terrific.
Yeah.
What was it like for your dad to go back and redo that?
You know what? It was so much fun. It was fun to revisit that. I mean, we're here at Family Talk now, and we get so many emails and posts on Facebook and tweets from families that are being saved by the work that we do. And it's the greatest feeling. I mean, the job we do is pretty heavy at times, but it's so worth it. And it's just been amazing with my dad. David Nixon is our director. Robert Wolgemuth's our executive producer. And that first film, Legacy, they filmed period-correct pieces around about 7 of my dad's stories, and they're really good. It is not cheesy. It's not B-grade. This is ultra-high quality, and that's the first film people can watch. It retells some of these stories in narrative form, and I'm telling you, I've seen it 20 or 30 times now. I cry every time. It's so good.
All right. Again, jot this down, buildingafamilylegacy.com. Now, Ryan, some of the other things you guys cover in there is your dad's books, bringing up boys, bringing up girls. Those are some of the things you highlight in the series, right?
Definitely. Lots of marriage, lots of parenting, bringing up boys, bringing up girls, strong-willed child, dare to discipline, all of those early formative year parenting things, you know, what to do with your teens and what with your little kids. I mean, I'm reading Dare to Discipline right now. I've got a 2.5-year-old and my son's going to be 8 in 2 weeks. It's right where I'm at. And so it was fun for me because all the things we talk about are literally right where I'm at in my marriage and my parenting. And if it's helpful for me, it's got to be helpful to other people.
All right, I kind of want to dwell there just for a moment. I mean, here you are, a young parent, and you discover your dad's material. He's been preaching this stuff for years, and you discover it for the first time. I mean, that in itself is quite a story.
It is. You know, he teases me about it because I never read his books. I didn't watch the film series, but I really didn't have a need to. You know, when it came out the first time, I was 9. I mean, there was no reason for me to watch it then. And then right when I needed it, you know, Lincoln was 1 and Lucy hadn't been born yet. I had been married for 2 years. And it just came along at the exact right time where all those early formative stages in your marriage and all the early things in parenting, it just started hitting me right where I was at. And all my friends are there too, you know, and I was giving it to them because I know it's helping me. It's got to help you guys too. And they said the same thing. And they're like, where do we buy copies?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. You know, so I called my dad. He's like, right, it's been out of print for decades. Nobody wants this. It's like everybody does. And it's true. We're getting a huge, huge response.
All right, I want to come back to the word legacy because it all starts with that. You start with your legacy. What are you trying to say to parents with the term legacy?
Well, there's an inheritance and there's a legacy. My dad talks about this a lot. An inheritance is something you give to someone. It's usually monetary in value. It's a college education or, you know, an endowment or property, a car, something like that. That's an inheritance, something you give someone. A legacy is what you put into them. It's character, it's faith, it's those types of things. It's those qualities that you put in someone. So we're trying to pass along to our kids. My dad uses the illustration of a relay race and a baton. And rarely does anybody drop the baton on the backstretch when they're by themselves. But it's when you're passing that baton off to another person that's where the fumble can happen. And that can happen with faith too. If you mess that up, they can drop that baton of faith and then never pick it up again. And so we're trying to teach parents not only how to be better parents, how to be better spouses, but also how to see your kids in eternity.
Wow. All right. Let me take a quick break here, Ryan. We'll come back. We have Ryan Dobson with us today. By the way, they're offering the first one totally free on the website, buildingafamilylegacy.com. You can go there and watch the first film series right there, buildingafamilylegacy.com. And let me encourage you, look for the book, get it, and the continuing series. You know, I remember those series. That kind of dates me. But I remember when those series first came out and they went through the churches of America like crazy, like wildfire. In fact, that launched your dad's speaking career, didn't it?
Totally. Well, he had been speaking a lot, but it really did launch the ministry. That was not a product of his former ministry focused on the family. It was totally separate. But it came out in 1979. By the mid-'80s, 80 million Americans had seen it. I mean, it was 1 in 3 Americans had watched 7 hours of his teaching. And we're hoping to recreate it again.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with Ryan Dobson.
All right.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're back, and what a delight to have with us today Ryan Dobson. He co-hosts Family Talk with his dad, Dr. James Dobson, and we've been honored for over 30 years to air Dr. Dobson's program here on the Dove radio network all these years. And I've had the high honor of meeting your dad a couple of times. I had the very high honor of getting beaten in ping pong by Ryan just on 2 swipes. But anyway, they are involved in a series that I think is just so important and so life-impacting, and that is Building a Family Legacy film series and book. And by the way, you can watch the first one free by going to buildingafamilylegacy.com. And let me encourage you to do that. Now, incorporated into the series, Ryan, is your book, your latest book, Wanting to Believe. Give us a little bit of a tease on that.
It really comes from, it's based on the scripture in Mark 9, where there's a dad that comes to Christ, and he has been to all the disciples. He's been to the experts, and he's desperate. His son's he's possessed and he's sick, and the dad doesn't know what to do. And he says, Master, if there's anything you can do for us, please have mercy. And the Lord says, if I can, all things are possible to him who believes. And the dad says, I do believe, but help my unbelief. And that's really, that sums up my kind of marriage, parenting, and faith journey. I do believe, but help my unbelief. Get me over those roadblocks, the obstacles. And I want to believe that the things my dad wrote are true, not just about faith, but about marriage and parenting. Is it really going to work if I apply dare to discipline with my kids? Are we going to have a good relationship? Are we going to love each other? We'll be close. And faith is what he's taught me all these years true. And now as an adult with 2 kids of my own, and I've been married for 9 years, it is true. I'm applying it to my life. And so it's kind of my life journey. And this book's special. They let me put photos in it. I've got 16 pages of photos. So when you read my life story, you actually get all the photos from those eras as well. You get me as a baby, me getting adopted, all the way through to my kids today. So it's really cool. I love the book. I'm biased, but I really, it's the first time I've written something where I didn't want to change it right when I was done.
That's great. Well, congratulations. And it's out there and available now, right?
It is. And my dad's book, Legacy, Your Greatest Gift, it's unbelievable. He didn't have time to do the audio version, and so I volunteered. It took 30 hours in a studio, but it's fantastic. You just can't put it down. The stories are so great. It's just, people are going to absolutely love that book too. So I encourage people to get involved.
I want to come to your generation. Do you think parenting today is different than when your dad was parenting you?
Absolutely. He'd say the same thing. And it's harder. It's not that it was easy when my parents were parenting. It's never easy. Parenting is really tough. Being married is tough. You got 2 individuals trying to exact their will over another person, and you've got that with kids as well. It's just harder today because every aspect of society, all of our culture, is trying to pull kids away from parents and away from the Lord. And so it's much, much harder. And we're busier. You've got kids in Awana and ballet and piano lessons and soccer and Little League and everything else that's going on. It's just we're so busy, and sometimes I think it's time to pull back. Maybe not do something every night of the week. Maybe have dinner together. Look in your kids' eyes, find out what they're doing, who influences them. It's harder today.
No. Let me ask you this. You talk about, and you and your dad talk about this a lot, especially on the program, about the culture today, somewhat, if I can use the term, blowing off church and Christians. It's just not part of, they think they're hypocrites. Is there hope for the church today? I know that your dad's very passionate about this. You are too. I listen to your program. Where are we in the culture with the church today, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think there's great work for the church. I think there's great hope for the church. I think we have a bit more of a cynical society today than we have before. I think people oftentimes throw the baby out with the bathwater, but they do it more with the church than anywhere else, and it's because we should have a higher standard. It's true. We should act differently than everybody else, and yet, with all the scandals with Adrian Peterson and Ray Rice, the NFL really isn't losing that much money. People aren't just saying, you know what, we're never going to watch it again unless you make a change. And that's why they're behaving the way they are. Those were atrocious, heinous things. Those guys ought to be in jail for it. And yet people don't leave the NFL. But if anything happens in church that we don't like, if your pastor says something you don't agree with, or someone's rude to you, or maybe someone doesn't just say hi to you one day, it's like, well, I'm never going back there again. And I think we kind of need to grow up a little bit and be there for the teaching, listen to the pastor, get some instruction, and put a lot into it. Maybe we should be saying hi to other people, greeting people, getting into a small group. Church is a great place. I was at a great church last night, so many good people, and it does give me hope. It gives me hope because there's a lot of great pastors doing some really good work.
That's wonderful. Talk to me about your generation's prayer life.
I think there's a lot of real big prayer warriors out there. I've watched my mom do that. When I was in grade school, elementary, and high school, my mom stayed home. She was a full-time employee. She put my dad through grad school and doctoral school when he got his PhD. And then when they had kids, she stayed home with us. And our culture today says, well, you got to have everything right now. You have to have a career right now. My mom's now been the president of the National Day of Prayer for 23 years. That's a pretty full career in my book, but she did it after we got out of high school. But I've watched my parents in their prayer life my entire life. You know, they were not real strict parents. If I was behaving, then I really didn't have a curfew my latter years in high school. And I'd come home late wondering if they were asleep, and I'd sneak past their bedroom, and I could hear them praying for my sister and I. I'm adopted. After my sister was born, there were complications. My mom couldn't have kids on her own anymore. They prayed for 4.5 years before I came along. They pray for my sister and I every day. They now pray for my wife and my 2 kids also every day. That made a difference in my life, and it allows me to turn to the Lord when I'm in need, because I've watched my parents do it all the way through their lives. Through my dad's career, through my mom's career, through all the ups and the downs, they turned to the Lord, and that modeled behavior now allows me to do the same thing. And I think we can have a really vibrant, alive prayer life today.
That is a beautiful story, Ryan. You guys now, you're out with the beginning of Building a Family Legacy series. I'll ask you a little bit of a industry question here. What's your marketing strategy? How are you going to get this out to another 80, 100 million people?
We are doing a full court press. The simulcast is the beginning. We've got over 5,000 churches signed up for it. We've got lots of individuals signing up for it. And then via Family Talk, there's a huge online strategy, a big radio strategy, broadcasting via our podcast, everything else that we do. And then in 2015, we've got a lot of exciting things planned. We're talking about putting my wife and I and our 2 kids on a little bus and kind of touring around the country, going from church to church to introduce it to people. We're putting it in the hands of a lot of pregnancy resource centers for their parenting classes. And I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be more of a grassroots thing, because it really does work. It really works. And the things that work, when you find a great restaurant, you tell your friends about it, because you want them to experience it as well. And if the things that you're doing are working in your marriage and they're working with your kids, you're going to give it to your friends, tell your friends about it, because you want them to have that success as well.
That's beautiful. By the way, it deals with the first one, legacy, and then it goes bringing up boys, bringing up girls, love for a lifetime, strong-willed child, dare to discipline, straight talk to men, wanting to believe with Ryan Dobson. I mean, you really cover all the bases. What's the straight talk to men? What's that one?
Man, I was just recommending that to a friend yesterday. Straight talk to men. It used to be straight talk to men and their wives. And I think before that it was called What Wives Wish Their Husbands Knew About Women. And, you know, this is the thing. It's so beautiful. We're created so differently. I mean, it was a couple of years ago. I was with my dad, and I was asking him, my parents have been married for 54 years now. And I said, what's it like? And he said, you know, there are just days I wake up and I look at your mom and I say, who are you? You know, because they're surprising. It's mysterious. Our brains don't work in the same way. They work very, very differently. And that's how you can be married for 50 years, 60 years, and still be fascinated by each other, because we are so different. And there are a lot of things that wives wish their husbands knew about them. And so straight talk to men is just some of that nuts and bolts. These are the things your wives need from you. This is how you can be a better spouse and a better husband. And, you know, that's why dads become workaholics. They get so much praise at work because they can become successful at work. I know what to do. I'm given my tasks, and I know how to be successful there. And at home, sometimes it's crazy. You know, your wife thinks differently than you do, and it's hard to understand at times. And so men tend to head towards work more and more and more and away from the home. And this gives them the tools to be successful at home, because that's really what we all want.
Boy, that's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. You got 2 children. Any one of them strong-willed?
I've got one that's a little more feisty than the other, definitely. Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, both born from the same parents, same household, totally different personalities.
Yeah, they made a switch at the hospital. Didn't they tell you that?
Yeah. Totally. But it's great. I wouldn't change it for the world. You know, it challenges us in totally different ways. They're both smart. They're both caring. But we've got an easier, compliant one. We've got a feisty one. And, I'm not worried about either of them. They're great kids. And with all the tools that I've been given that I'm trying to share with others, I think we're all going to do a pretty good job.
Well, Ryan, you're a delight, and the very best to this to you and your dad and the team. And as you launch this, I can't think of a better time when our culture needs this. You know.
Thank you so much, Perry.
Really, you see it. You guys deal with it every day on your program, and the problems within Christian marriages and parenting and blended families and all of those issues.
Yeah.
Boy, if there's ever a time to bring it home, you guys have resurfaced this and repackaged it. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so excited for people to see it. I think it's really going to help a lot of people. They're going to feel good about their families, and it's going to draw them closer to the Lord, which is really what we're here for.
All right, check it out, buildingafamilylegacy.com. You can watch the legacy one there online, and then the full-blown series. What's the launch date?
It was yesterday.
Yesterday.
So you can get them all right now. Video on demand, all the films, and then the DVDs ship out shortly.
That's wonderful. Thanks, my friend. Best to you and your dad. And tell your dad, now, we are the place in Oregon. If you mention this to your dad, he'll know this. Tell him Rogue River Coffee Pot. Did he ever?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Definitely. That's a story we tell all the time. I can't wait. We'd love to come back, too. It's a gorgeous area. I don't want to get stuck in the coffee pot, but I'd love to come back.
Well, that's in our backyard. And but listen, we won't take him down through coffee pot, but we will help him catch a salmon. And you, too. How's that?
Anytime. We'd love to come out. Thanks, Perry. We appreciate it.
All right. God bless you, Ryan. Best to you, friend.
God bless.
All right. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Welcome back. You know, one of the areas here at theDove and Focus Today that we try to focus on is bringing biblical values and principles to those of you who are in business. And it's ended up being quite an interesting area and a lot of response. More and more people who are in business, whether you're in management, you own your own business, maybe you're a department head or whatever. How do I manage biblically without being offensive? But when the world is starving for leadership and honesty and integrity, what an opportunity to begin to teach business biblical principles. And that's one of the things that we are starting to do more and more here at theDove. Well, earlier I had the chance to talk to our good friend Michael Pink. He heads up Michael Pink Innovations. A very successful businessman in the past, and God now has called him into helping other business people think and manage biblically. So join me as we talk to Mike about that. Okay, today we welcome to Focus Today our good friend Michael Pink, and you may want to jot this down, michaelpink.com. That's his website. He's a business consultant, not only for large corporations, but for individuals, wherever you find yourself. He's been through the drill, he's paid the dues, and God's turned him around and using him now to encourage and to help and to strategize, help strategize businesses to become more successful. And we don't say that because, you know, the plan is to go out there and become rich. We say that because we want to be impacting in the kingdom and for the kingdom. Yeah. And I've often told people, you know, they think they're being called to ministry. I said, wait a minute. You're already in ministry. Bloom where you're planted, you know. God needs business people to be there for him and to do his work. But how do you approach business? How do you look at people when you begin to help them and look forward as to whether or not they're doing it God's way?
Well, first thing I ask him is, what has God called you to? And what was the original vision that God put in your heart? When you started this, when you sat down in your living room with your spouse and you said, I'm going into business. Yeah. You know, what did he put in your heart? What did you see then? Because what happened, and almost always happens, is when they launch out, then it's like stepping out. It's like this. It's kind of like being in the Antarctic. Okay, it's minus 60. There's 100-mile-an-hour winds and blizzard, but they're inside having a coffee, planning their strategy. And they say, this is great. We're going to go out and feed the penguins. And they step outside and they're hit. And so we definitely show them how they can prepare and succeed in any environment. And we do that by using biblical models and biblical strategies that actually work. And we do it for a reason. What I want to do is to say, look, it's not about you. I don't care how wealthy you become. I promise you, you will lose every penny of it. You're going to leave it behind. Somebody else who doesn't know what you know is going to be given that, and it's just going to go away. So maybe we should make an eternal impact. Maybe we should do something strategic to impact the kingdom. Maybe we should capture resources, not so we can get a bigger boat or faster this or whatever. And I'm not against people having a home or a boat or any of those things. What I'm saying is that's not my motivation. That's not what we're here for. I want to capture resources for the kingdom of God, for His glory. Why would God say, let me help you do that so you can squander it on yourself? Now, again, He loves to bless us, and you can enjoy those resources. So there's a balance to all of what I'm saying. But there should be a heart that says, wait a minute, we're living in a time, this is what I believe, Perry, we're living in a time unprecedented in history. There are threats and there are things that face not only this country but this world. It feels like in many ways an unraveling is beginning. Yeah. And I see that unraveling, and I watch the enemies of our soul. I'm watching enemies known as ISIS and other people capturing oil fields and resources and then funneling, they're not funneling that into a castle in Scotland, they're funneling those into activities to come after us, to come after America, to come after Christians and Jews everywhere.
Well, that's well said. That's well said. And you know, I think sometimes people in business feel guilty if they're successful. You know? And there's that part of it too. But what is the motive for going into business? What's the motive for being there? I mean, I believe that if you look at your business as a tool in the hands of God, I was thinking of, I think it's 2 Corinthians where it says, He gives seed to the sower and bread for food, and He'll enlarge your harvest and make you rich in every way. Now, a lot of people will put a period there, but there's no period there. There's a comma there, so that you can be generous in every occasion. You want to explain that?
Yeah, well, it's the whole idea is to have all sufficiency for every good work. That's the point of it. And so people think, well, I want to get into ministry, and yet they're in business. I'm going to tell you, business is a godly calling. Yeah, it's a godly calling, and it can be a platform. I mean, I'm in business, and I'm pretty sure I have had the opportunity to lead more people to Christ in business than most pastors ever do in their church that are in ministry. It's not a comparison thing. I'm just making a point that there's valid ministry if you want that side of it to take place there, but also there is the whole idea of as you get successful in business, you gain a platform and you gain strength. And people will start to look up and say, what have you got to say? What solutions do you have? And you can share the King of Kings with them.
What do you mean by doing business by the book?
What I mean by that is this. People often use the term, well, ours is biblical principles, so biblically derived kind of stuff. And I say, what do you mean by that? Well, you know, honest and integrity and those kinds of things. Well, that is so elementary it doesn't even hardly deserve notice. I would call those kind of things more biblically compatible. They're good things. You should do them. But when I talk about doing business by the book, I'm talking about overlaying and studying. When I want to know how to negotiate, I look at the book of Philemon, a letter that Paul wrote. I don't know why it's called a book. It's one page, you know, a couple dozen verses or so. But that is a model for negotiating like nothing else. When I want to know how to make a presentation to an audience, especially one that might be hostile, I go to Acts chapter 2 and I look at the presentation Peter made. He stood up in front of thousands of people that had just killed Jesus not that long ago and were hostile to the faith, if you will. And 3,000 of them made a decision that would forever change their life. And they made it publicly, and it was going to cost many of them their lives, a lot of them their fortunes, and probably all of them some friends. And so I want to look at that presentation and say, what was in there? What did the Holy Spirit put in there? And pull that out and lift it out like a template, lift it out, and now put it on the present circumstance and apply it presently and show people how to do that and get similar kinds of results. And that is over and over and over and over and over again, biblical models that I use.
What do you deal with the subject of indebtedness for business? I know personally we want to be out of debt, but you know sometimes managing businesses you're stuck with it. It's just kind of like it comes with the territory.
It seems to come with the territory. I think that there's two trains of thought on it. You know, one is a responsible amount of debt that is manageable and to pay off a mortgage and it helps accomplish something. But then there's debt that is irresponsible, that drags people down. But the biblical principle still is, it's better to not be in debt than in. I interviewed a fellow on my program who doesn't owe anything. He's a billionaire, owns companies all over the world, and they don't owe a penny to anybody, and they have their own bank and so forth. It was a great position. It wasn't always that way. But I will tell you something. This man was one of the most generous men I know. He doesn't live in this continent, okay? But he got moved by the same kind of ministry that you have about how you know, being a witness and saving souls and all those things. And he thought, I got to do something. And so he went and he wrote a check, emptied his checkbook, and gave it. I'm not telling anybody else what to do. I'm just saying this is what he did, okay? And he was a real estate developer and he had a lot of real estate. He emptied his checkbook. Afterwards, he thought, I can do better than that. I'm just telling you the true story. I'm not saying you should do this. I'm just saying this is what happened, okay? But he then went to the bank. He said, I want to borrow money against all my properties. He did, and he wrote that check. And then he said, you know what? I still have a reputation. He went to another bank. He said, on my name, how much can I get? And he wrote that check. That's a lot of money he gave. He said, how long did it take you to dig out from that? He said, about a year or two. He's a billionaire now. But my point is that there's a heart. Do you have a heart to give? Debt is not a great place. Even if it's a little bit, it's not a great place. It can be something that can be managed, but I think ultimately, I want to encourage people to say, here's how you can get debt-free. You have a mortgage on your house? We can show you how to get debt-free. We're not financial counselors, but there's only two ways that I know to get rid of a mortgage. You either got to reduce your indebtedness, reduce your expenses, or increase your income, and we show people how to do both.
There's a fine line between the message of planting a seed and expecting a harvest. And you've seen the abuses of it. But on the other hand, the principle is there, seed time and harvest. It's there.
Yeah, here's the problem. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, how do you respond?
Here's the problem. Because of abuses, people see something that they don't agree with or they don't like, or it's a clear violation, they go, and they walk away from the scripture.
Right.
The truth is still there.
Right.
I'm going to tell you a story. I got up one morning, this goes back to when I was in my early 20s. I just bought a brand new home, beautiful home, nicest home I'd ever had, beautiful home in Canada. And I had a Lincoln, and I was doing well as a young man. And a life insurance salesman came to my door by appointment and wanted to sell me a policy, which I bought, okay? It's $50,000 term life and policy. My premium was $13. I was young, okay? $13, and I wrote him a check. And he asked me, how did you become so successful? You're such a young guy and all this kind of stuff. And he left, and I almost wept because I knew what he didn't know. That $13 check was going to be covered by my overdraft protection, okay? In other words, I had an allowance. I could go up to $300 over or whatever without any penalty. So it was covered, but I was actually borrowing to cover the check. And I was stressed about that. I went to bed. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I came downstairs. I felt like the Lord wanted to speak to me. And I said, God, what is up here? And he spoke a verse to me that I did not know. Okay, this is a long time ago, 35 years ago. Luke 6:38. Okay, so that many verses in Luke 6, flip. Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, shall men give unto your bosom. Now, you and I have seen that abused all the time. But it's in the Bible. Jesus himself said it. Now, so I said, you want me to give? All right. How much and who? And I got up, and when I went to work that day, I was so eager to obey, I wanted to put a sign in front of my office, need cash, pull in here. and so one of my first things I was doing, I was taking one of my young salesmen out on a call, and he mentioned to me that he needed $200 in the worst way to pay something to do with the state, province. And I said, hey, perfect. Can I give you $200? He said, well, I'll pay you back on payday. I said, no, you'll mess the whole thing up. And he wasn't even a believer. And he said, what? I said, just trust me, just let me give it to you, but you got to promise don't pay it back. It'll screw everything up. and so he took the money reluctantly, and that was that. Well, I get home that day, and this was my first quarter as a sales manager, and I had a responsibility, and it was 2 days before the end of the quarter. And I had a $330,000 goal. If I hit that, I got a 1% bonus, which is $3,300. I was sitting at the $200,000 mark. Excuse me. So in 88 days, I was up to 200. I had 2 more days to get the other third, and it wasn't looking good. Okay, so that day that night I stopped by the office for something, and my boss was there, and he said, you know what, Michael? I've been thinking about it. I've decided I'm going to give you that 1% bonus regardless of whether you hit your number, which meant instantly that at the $200,000 mark, I was getting a $2,000 bonus. I was tickled. Now I thought, I'm going to do this again. So the next day I got up thinking, okay, I'm going to do this again. And the guy said, thank me. And he said, by the way, I was about $100 short. I didn't know it was going to be that much. I said, here's another $100. He said, no. I said, yeah. Don't mess this up. So he took the $100, and then, you know, he did that. And then I thought, I don't know what to do. I went cold calling for copiers, and I came across a ministry I'd never heard of. They had an office. I didn't know who they were. I said, do you guys take donations? They said, well, yeah. I wrote them a check. Okay, no. I had a word. I wasn't just like reading that verse and saying, okay, and I'm going to somehow play the system. But when the Lord wakes you up in the middle of the night and says, you got problems? Luke 6:38. And so I did that. And you know what happened? The school board, the largest, not the largest, but I got the largest order from a very substantial school board, was my territory, for $70-something thousand, of which I got a full commission and override on, and bonus, everything. And a few other things came in, and we sailed past our $330,000 goal. I had a huge win. My point is, there is validity to the, obviously everything that God says is true. And yes, you can take anything and you can use it wrong, but the promises of God are yes and amen. And when He speaks it to you, go with it.
Wow, there you go. What an encouragement. Well, listen, Michael Pink's in and out of Southern Oregon a lot, but that doesn't stop you from being in contact with him, and you can do that through michaelpink.com. He's very passionate, as you can tell, about what God has called him into doing, and I want to encourage you to get a hold of him if you're in business or thinking about going in business, or maybe you're running a corporation, you're a manager, whatever it is. I think you'll find him to be a tremendous resource. michaelpink.com. Thanks for coming in, buddy. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Appreciate it.
All right, Michael Pink, he's a great guy. Coming up next, are you prepared for an emergency? Well, we're going to help you get that way. Coming up in just a few moments here on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and what a delight to have back in the studio with us today Margueritte Hickman. She's the Division Chief Fire Marshal at the Ashland Fire and Rescue Department in Southern Oregon, and we're here to talk about emergency preparedness. Nice to see you again, Margueritte. You brought the whole store with you.
We did. We brought a new sample emergency kit that we gave away last year at the Ashland is Ready event.
Okay, and that's coming up.
It is November 1st. We have 2 sessions, a morning and an afternoon. It's available on our website at ashlandcert.org.
Okay.
Pre-registration is required. Walking away with something like this for about $10 is a great value. There's way more than $10 worth of things here. You
know, we're hearing more and more about preparedness. And not only is this just good common sense, but I think people are saying, you know what, am I really ready?
Well, and you know, I think that we are a society who we're used to being able to drive our cars, pick up our phones from pretty much just about anywhere. And we don't know what it would really be like if all of that failed. And yeah. I think that we experienced that more 30, 40, 50 years ago of having to survive on our own. And what we are really trying to communicate to the public is, besides the fact that the disaster has occurred, they may not get the resources from emergency services that they're used to either. We may not be able to get there to help immediately. So these are the kinds of things that will help people to survive on their own. First aid kit in the event that you have a small medical type situation, a radio that you can listen to find out what the current emergency is, where you might go for help, a flashlight that doesn't even use batteries, you can wind it up and turn it on. So kind of, you know, great tools to have.
You know, I think when we think of emergencies, we almost think of things that would be somewhat catastrophic, but that's not what you're talking about, right?
Well, catastrophic is certainly what we're what we're preparing for, but it could even be something as simple as we've lost the gas line for a few days, and how do you survive with that? You know, so.
All right, let me give you a website here while you are preparing this. Ashland.or.us is a good place to go to get more information, or ashlandcert.org. You can check it out there. And it's coming up November 1st, and there's quite a few sessions there, or events that you're going to have tied into the major event, where you can learn about being prepared.
Yes.
And I can't say enough about this. I think, you know, we had something the other day. I ran my well dry. Accidentally. I didn't have any water, and it dawned on me I didn't have any water. I wasn't ready for just something simple as that.
Exactly.
You know.
And to think that if you ran out of water because the water supply wasn't going to be there for a while, do you have enough gallons to survive for a few days?
Yeah. All right, so tell us some of the things you're going to be covering during the event.
So during the Ashland is Ready event, we'll have a couple of speakers. One of the speakers that will be there is Althea Riso from the state, who will talk about earthquakes and the subduction zone that we are sitting on. And I've seen her presentation before. It sounds like it could be boring, but she is an amazing presenter. And there'll be a few other presentations on how to get ready. Somebody will talk a little more about an emergency kit, what to put in it. And you know what we really want people to do is get involved. We've spent this whole last month talking about emergency preparedness and things that people can do. Make a plan, have a kit. Be informed. You can sign up for Citizen Alert. You can do that through our website that you just mentioned. And then get involved. And that get involved can be going to some training like that. It can be practicing your plan with your family. It can be throwing your emergency kit out on the floor or table and having everybody take a look at it and say, well, you know, how do we use this and what's missing? What do I need in this as well?
Such as medications or things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do you and your department now plan for emergencies as well? I mean, I realize you want the individual, but if something was to occur, how are you broken up as a city to handle it?
Well, you know, one of the things that we implemented this last year with our Human Resources Department and Risk Manager is the Employee Emergency Response Team. And so our goal has been, and I think we're pretty close to there, that every city building has a team leader who has a kit that's appropriate for that building, and that building as a whole, separately from the city, is ready for some kind of an emergency. That team leader is going to be the one that's responsible to take an inventory of who's there, you know, make sure accountability, make sure that we're not missing anybody, make sure the needs are taken care of the folks there.
How is what's the protocol? I mean, is CERT in charge of an emergency? Are you as the fire, as the police? How does that work?
Well, certainly in the city of Ashland, the fire chief takes the role of the emergency manager. And so I would say that under that, though, depending on the kind of emergency, it may be a different division in our government as far as who's in charge. If we had a flood event, it's going to be the Public Works Department that's in charge of it, but we're all going to work together to make it successful.
That's wonderful. All right, now what about pets? A lot of people have them. I got 2 dogs. What should I be prepared for?
We got to think about them too. And in this emergency kit, we should have a little supply of food for them and think about them in our water needs that we have. Maybe a leash, a collar if they don't normally wear those, because you know you are probably going to want to take them with you. I know I would want to. The other thing to keep in mind, you know, we talked about a plan earlier this month on how you meet up with your family if you're all in different locations and everything. One of the things you can include in your plan is if you're gone during the day and your pets are at home, which is the case for many of us, maybe find a neighbor that is willing to make sure that the pets are okay. Maybe the neighbor takes them if there's a disaster and you meet up later. Have that alternative idea plan in place as well.
And what about what advice would you have with families that have members that have disabilities?
Well, certainly if it's a family member that you can help to provide that assistance to, then you're going to need to do that. If it's somebody that's living on their own or needs some other help, one, coordinating with your neighbors, you know, see if there's somebody that can help you out with that. Also, RV COG has a disaster registry that may be helpful to that person as well.
All right, so at your website, are there other resources there that people be aware of?
Absolutely. Everything that we've talked about this month, you can find it either on our website or a link to it from the ashlandcert.org. You can find a link to the Ashland is Ready event. Another event that people may want to consider is the CERT teams, the Community Emergency Response teams. There's a few of them in the Valley. They all do basic training at some time or another. We have one coming up. That's another way. It's a little longer, more intense training than the 4 hours or 3 hours on November 1st, but it's another way that you can learn. You'll find all of that at our website.
Okay, now those who may not attend the event but want to put a kit together, what do you suggest? How do they start doing this?
So you can either come up with your own list of things that you think might be helpful to you, or you can go to our website. We've got a list there. You can link to ready.gov, which also has a list. You know, and I think that your personal kit, this is a starter kit. Everybody took that home, and I think it's a great starter kit. Right. But you want to think of your family. If you've got 2 or 3 kids and you don't have power, what's going to entertain them? Because you're not going to have the iPod and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So we need a book maybe, or some cards, small things that can be entertainment for them. How about our needs as far as, some food? We've got one ready kit there. Is that
like a dry thing?
Yes, and it's that one's, I think, got 2,400 calories in it.
Boy, that's pretty dense stuff.
We've got some bars. Thinking of some things that will have a pretty long shelf life. I think that has a 5-year shelf life. These have a lower shelf life, so if you put something like that in there, you're going to want to rotate them out at some point. It's really, you can start with that list, but I think you really want to tailor it to your family and what your personal family's desires are. Maybe a Bible in your emergency kit.
Good. Yeah, you bet. And, well, listen, I just want to encourage you to check this out. It's coming up November 1st, and you can go to ashlandcert.org. There you go. And you can check out the event there. And if you sign up, it's $10 to go to the whole day. You'll get this, right?
Something similar. This is last year's kit, and we might have a few different things in it this year, but
okay.
Yes.
And some great speakers. The earthquake thing is the big one coming. And boy, things are rocking and rolling. We ought to be ready for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This will keep us ready for pretty much anything that happens.
All right, well, check it out. And again, that's ashlandcert.org, and you can check it out there. Or if you just want to go to the normal website there, it's ashland.or.us, and you can check out a lot of things going there. Well, Marguerite, this is fantastic, and I hope a lot of people are paying attention to this. Sometimes we just kind of let these things pass, but I think we've gotten caught, whether it's an earthquake or a power outage. We've had some torrential rain, some threatening fires and all these things. Are we ready? Are we ready for something? And I would say probably the average household is not.
Got to answer that question ourselves for each of us individually. Yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Now, are you coordinating with other departments too throughout the Valley?
Absolutely. Through the emergency management program, we are working with all of the emergency management groups throughout the Valley as well as with CERT.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Well, thanks for what you do. And again, let me really encourage you. This is really a no-brainer, but sometimes we just kind of let these things slide. Let me encourage you to check it out. Again, that's ashlandcert.org for the event coming up November 1st, how to promote and participate in the preparedness for your family, and share it with family members and friends. Put a kit together, get some water, get some basic things. Make sure everybody knows where it is in the house. I carry a small little kit in the car, first aid, but you never know where you're going to get caught and what could happen. But let's just be good stewards and be on top of these things. So fascinating things. Thank you, Marguerite. And again, looking forward to a great event, and maybe look on the other side and see how it went.
Sounds like a plan.
Thanks for your service.
Oh, thank you, Perry.
Okay. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, theDove.us.